And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the season premiere of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. And we've got a very interesting match here tonight. We are kind of settling a blood feud, if you will, between Chokeslam Wrestling Debate, ourselves, and Combat Wrestling Trivia. We're going to get it on, cage match. And unlike Hell in a Cell, it's not going to end in a no contest or disqualification because that don't make any goddamn sense, folks. Come on now. So let's hear what our two competitors have to say. Let's start off with the imposter representing CWT, the man who apparently now is wearing sunglasses. Never seen him, and he's laughing because even he knows I'm funny. So, Mr. Hunter Chambless, what do you have to say about what you have done to our precious game?
Look. It was never my intention to reign on the championship parade. But what I did for a reason. I did because we had to be known. We had to get the attention. And we had to prove that we are the best wrestling competition working today. Combat Wrestling Trivia is the best ever.
Okay. You obviously must be the best because you called JTH to compete. So I guess you got a good point there. So here to fight for the honor of Chokeslam Wrestling Debate, our admin team selected our own personal representative and is also a member of our admin team, Mr. Sean Wasserkrug. Sean, I know I kind of jumped this kind of last minute on you, but I know you were of everything that happened, but now that Mr. Hunter has kind of laid the forefront, do you feel any added pressure knowing that you're kind of fighting for an entire league here?
No added pressure. I mean, you guys picked the right person to do it. You picked someone with pro wrestling experience. I was Sean, the sensational one, Sean Cruz, for 14 years. You picked someone who knows how to cut promos. You picked someone who knows how to do a fight. Hunter, you entered the lion's den. I am the Nerd Fights champion. I am going for the Sports Brawl championship against Cody Newberry. You are in the buzzsaw, and you are not making it out of this alive. And I'm sorry, Hunter. I like you. You're a fun guy. We have a lot of the same thoughts on pro wrestling. But today, it's going to be a squash match.
All right. Well said. I give that promo an A. So let's Our as stated in my my statement about this match being announced, to avoid any sense of biasness whatsoever, exceeded my role as a judge for this match. I'm still, giving my my hosting duties for this match because it's kind of the requirement of what I do and it's a passion of mine. So, interesting people that are in the judge table is a person that's got a title over his shoulder right now. Ironically, is our very own Chokeslam Wrestling Debate champion, the Cosmic Night Fury, Nico Suave Rigoli. Now, I'm sure some people are probably thinking because you have our championship that you're going to be biased towards our brand. But we're going to let you take this away because I'm sure I already know that you're going to be impartial, but just let everybody know that you will stand and be an unbiased judge in this.
I promise everyone watching at home that, yes, I will be an unbiased judge here on this panel. Yes, I am the Chokeslam Debate champion. And yes, I do kind of have a minor behind-the-scenes role with TMG Entertainment, but I also have a minor behind-the-scenes role over at Combat Wrestling Trivia. I competed for the inaugural heavyweight championship over there. So, I'm very active in both companies, in both brands. And either way, whoever wins, that just brings them one step closer to competing for my title. And I want the best challenges possible. So, yes, I will be fair. I will be balanced, unlike Fox News. And we're going to have a good match here tonight.
Fox News represented by Fox. And wait a minute, doesn't Fox have a wrestling program now? No, they
Why
don't.
is Tyrus
That's
being advertised? Why is Tyrus being advertised for a stupid radio show?
No idea. Anyway, I also want to thank our other two judges that have chosen to take part in this. Obviously, because of the stakes and the feud and the heat, a lot of judges were very reluctant to want to take part in this. So, Mr. Malcolm, Goldie Lay, and Ryan Payne, thank you so much for taking part in this. I know probably not the kind of environment you want to be in because the tension here is very tense. But thank you very much, and I'm sure that you all will do a great job tonight. So with all the introductions being done, here is basically how the rules will go out for anybody that is seeing this for the first time. Basically what we have here is we have 4 main round questions. Each of these questions have been pre-selected categories from both of our players. It's going to be the first to 3. However, as stated, because there are 4 main round questions, we might not get to all 4 of these questions. We may perchance have a 3-0 knockout. I certainly don't think so. But, obviously, if there is a 3-0 knockout, I think you all know who I'm going to be rooting for to get that victory. Basically, how it's going to work is both players are going to have a 90-second maximum opening statement. Then we're going to have a 5-minute debate period between both of our players talking about why their pick is the superior pick. After the 5-minute debate period is over, we will have a 60-second maximum closing argument from both players. Once the debate is over from each question, we will go to our 3 judges. Our 3 judges will say who they thought gave the best argument, and the person that gets the point will be based on majority vote. And again, the first person to 3 will get the win. If by chance there is a 2-2 tie after the 4 main round questions have been asked, we will have 1 speed round question to determine the winner. And pretty much it's as simple as that. So if both of our players are ready, we're going to get started. And I think this is a very interesting question. At the time we posted these questions, there had only been 1 AEW taping that had taken place. By the time that this airs, we're going to have 2. But we're going to focus strictly on the AEW TNT TV premiere. We wanted to ask both of our players, who is the most interesting wrestler moving forward following the AEW TV premiere? Now, this category was selected by Hunter. So because of that, he got first choice at his personal pick. But because of that, we're going to go to Sean. He will get the first option to present his case. So, Sean, whenever you're ready, you have your 90-second opening argument will begin. Who did you select as the most interesting character wrestler moving forward after the AEW premiere?
Well, going off the AEW premiere, it would be easy to pick someone that everyone knows, like a Chris Jericho, a Jon Moxley, any of those guys. I decided to choose someone that is still very new to everybody, someone that hasn't really busted out through the limelight yet in terms of AEW. My guy actually wasn't on the actual AEW telecast. He was actually a part of one of the dark matches on the show, which then also debuted on AEW Dark, which is where they put it on YouTube the Tuesday prior to that show. So technically, he is on the first show. He just wasn't on the live telecast. So before Hunter tries to use that as an argument, it ain't going to work. But I'm going with the one guy that through all the current AEW shows that have happened prior to the telecast has been the most intriguing to me and the one that has caught my eye the most, and that is Luchasaurus. And I'll concede the rest of my time.
All right. I'm not going to lie. When I first heard that pick, I was a little, skeptical because, we know who Mr. Sean is fighting for. So I hope he knows what he's doing. So, Hunter, who do you have to counter? Who is the most interesting wrestler moving forward following the AEW TV premiere?
Okay, so following the AEW television premiere, this is someone who I knew a little bit about, but at the end of the night, I knew a lot about and wanted to know more as the weeks go on. And that is Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara is a fucking dynamic new young star coming up, and they really used him to his full potential and more just on this night alone. He was in the opening match, he was in the closing segment, and all of them were fantastic. He is up and coming, he's new, he's a new star that is really on the rise right now. So I'm picking Sammy Guevara. I'm going to concede the rest of my time.
All right. Both players concede the time. We'll see how that works out. I also want to add one extra thing when it comes to the rules. Both players at any point can use a 1-minute extension at any point during their opening or closing arguments, but they only get one at any point during the duration of the match. So it's up to their preference when they wish to use it. But once they use it, they do not get another one for the duration of the match. Now that that's been cleared up, the 5-minute debate period between both of these selections will begin when the first person begins speaking.
All right, so I will start here. So Sammy Guevara had the match of the night, like everyone can say that, against Cody to open up the show. And Cody put him over huge. Sammy Guevara came out as this slimy, underhanding, young heel, and it worked so well. At the end of the night, he was put into a main event faction with guys like Chris Jericho and Jake Hager, who immediately set him up as a main eventer in my eyes. He's being taught by Chris Jericho, a veteran of the game, so he's just going to get better and better and better. He was the talk of the wrestling world that night. Randy Orton said he wanted to work with this guy because he is so good. And in the main event of the second episode, he was in the main event and held his own with guys like Chris Jericho, Adam Page, and the legend Dustin Rhodes. So that says a lot where they're going into the future. And just the fact that AEW is looking at a guy like Sammy Guevara and wanting to push him to the top and wanting to make him this kind of like modern YouTube type heel that really can get under people's skin and works really well and can draw massive heat. That's the reason why I went with him. And to me, he is the talk of the wrestling world. He is the talk of the wrestling world right now as we're talking about it. And to me, Sammy Guevara is the obvious choice for this. Luchasaurus wasn't even on the show. It was a dark match. Doesn't count.
Still aired. That's still aired, my friend. So don't use that match. His match did show up if you did watch it.
Show. Sammy Guevara was the main event, the main attraction.
He wasn't the main event. He was the opener, and he was only in the opener because Cody was in the opener. Cody still won the match, so he put him over. Cody won the match. Here's the problem.
Incredible.
I let you talk. Here's the problem with Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara, yes, is he a great kind of like X Division kind of wrestler? Yes, but his cocky storyline is no different than 50 other wrestlers that I've seen before. Just because he's the one they chose to focus on first doesn't even mean he was the most interesting person of the night. Yeah, great. He got picked by Jericho. You know what that means? He's taken the back seat. Even in that
not at all. Not at all.
Match. What did he do when Jericho's promo happened? He shut up and he stood still and tried to look menacing. So in terms of interesting characters, he's not going to be interesting because Jericho's going to take that whole spotlight and put it on him because Guevara, outside of that first match with Cody, didn't do much in that main event. The only thing he did in that main event was sell a great clothesline. Other than that, Sammy Guevara is just going to be a generic high flyer in Jericho's group, while the Hernandezes and Hager are going to be the limelight with Jericho. With Luchasaurus, he's a 6'5" man who moves like a lucha libre wrestler, and he's a fucking dinosaur. Tell me what's not interesting about that. And the main thing about Luchasaurus is that in every show up to that point, and even during the match on the first card, even though he was on it, just not on the live taping, is that he engulfs the crowd. When Luchasaurus is in the ring, everyone pays attention to him. The crowd is eating out of his hand. During that match, the crowd was like, ooh, cool, Jungle Boy is great. But when Luchasaurus came in, everyone was focused. Everyone chanted Luchasaurus because everything he does is awe-inspiring. His moveset is fantastic, and he captures everyone's attention as soon as he's on screen, which is why he is the most entertaining and interesting wrestler going forward in AEW, and not Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara, there's about 15 Sammy Guevaras out there, and I could throw at him, and I could call some up right now if you want me to. But Luchasaurus is unique.
1 minute.
And one of a kind.
See, that's where you're wrong. Luchasaurus is still too fucking green. He's sloppy in the ring to the point where in Lucha Underground, they killed him off because he was so subpar.
They killed him off because he was a monster. We're not using Lucha Underground as an argument. This is AEW.
Luchasaurus is someone who is part of a team right now that is not going to be pushed as a main eventer anytime soon. Sammy Guevara is someone who I can see
interesting people don't have to be main eventers.
Of this huge heel faction. He's going to be made because he's with someone like Chris Jericho, not being put to the background. Jericho's going to put him over so hard because he is young, he is fast, he is one of the
Jericho away from that group, and Sammy Guevara is not anything to talk about. In terms of merch sales, everyone's going to be buying Luchasaurus Jungle Boy stuff because the kids love it and the actual wrestling fans love it. Sammy Guevara is just the light heavyweight in a group led by Jericho. It is a Jericho group, and Sammy Guevara is just tagging to it.
All right, good opening arguments and banter there. They kind of were just testing each other out. They weren't kind of interrupting each other. It's kind of surprising considering this blood feud that we're undergoing. But we're going to go to the closing arguments now. We started with Sean in the opening arguments, so we're going to start with Sean in the closing arguments. You have 60 seconds for your closing argument. They will begin whenever you're ready.
Like I said, the great thing about Luchasaurus is even during his dark match, he had one of the biggest pops of the night while the show was going on. This is going to be a build throughout, which, as I said, is interesting. Not where he's at right now, but where it's going to be building towards. And Luchasaurus with Jungle Boy and I'm blanking, Marcos Spunt or whatever the heck that little guy's name is. They are a core triple six-man group that's going to build, and it's going to bring in kids, and it's going to bring in everyone who loves something unique and interesting to the card. It's not going to be the same old generic-looking high flyer who's a badass and annoying. Sammy Guevara is basically as if Justin Bieber was a pro wrestler. That is Sammy Guevara, which is someone that you're just going to hate because he's annoying, not because he's great, because he's just an annoying person to look at and he's someone you want to punch in the face. That's not interesting. It's the same thing we've seen time and time and time again. Luchasaurus is new, unique, and exciting, and when he's in the ring, you stand and pay attention, which makes him the most interesting option, not Sammy Guevara, who's just a generic wrestler in a group of
Hunter, whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
You said something very interesting, Sean. You said that Luchasaurus is going to bring in the kids. That's the problem. AEW, I do not want them to bring in the audience of kids because then it compares to WWE, where they're just pandering to the kids, pandering to the children. I don't want that. I want someone who, yes, you want to hate Sammy because he is that slimy, underhanded, you want to punch this dude in the mouth heel, and that works because if you're a fan of his style in the ring, you're going to watch him. But you're also going to watch him to see other people kick his ass. He's a moneymaker. He's a star in the making. And this first episode, the debut episode of AEW, he was the focus. From the opening to the ending, you saw Sammy Guevara there. They're building him up. He's part of a great faction that's going to give him incredible veterans to work off of. Jericho called him Greek God in the ring on the second episode. He's building him up. Jericho's going to put him into the limelight, and Sammy Guevara can make it work because he's such a good heel wrestler.
All right. Good first question there. Good back and forth. It would be pretty close for me to call this if I was a judge, but that's not what I'm here to do. I'm strictly here for a host. So we're going to go to the first of our three judges. We're going to start with Nico. Nico, where do you side on this?
Just realized I was muted. JTH, can you please repeat the question for me?
Who's the most interesting wrestler moving forward following the AEW TV premiere?
Okay, so there are a couple ways I could go about this based on that wording. In Hunter's opening argument, he said he went from knowing nothing about Sammy Guevara to wanting to know everything about Sammy Guevara. And he listed a lot of good points of like, Cody was willing to put him over even in defeat. He's getting that help from being around veterans of the business. Randy Orton even gave him props. So there is interest to that. At the same time, Sean mentioned with Luchasaurus that despite being on a dark match, he still got the biggest pop of night one of AEW Dynamite. And he brought up like how he has the ability to keep the audience in the palm of his hand at all times because of his look and because of the things he's able to do in the ring that a 6'5" man should not be able to do. And also in terms of defense, Sean kind of dinged Sammy Guevara by saying there are like 15 Sammy Guevaras out there. He's seen his character done a million times before. And it's kind of, he's a passenger in Jericho's story. I don't really feel like Hunter was able to dispute that point. Like he tried to make it work in his advantage with the whole he's surrounded around veterans that are going to help him get better. And I just feel like Sean, in terms of future stuff, like he's a big star now, and he's going to be an even bigger star with the future. And he's his own character that captures attention, Luchasaurus, and therefore Sean gets my vote.
All right, so Nico sides with Sean on question number 1. Next, we're going to go with Ryan. Ryan, where do you stand on this?
Well, Nico definitely covered a lot of points on both sides, honestly. I mean, first off, both on a visual standpoint, when it comes to wrestling as a visual storytelling, both wrestlers, Sammy Guevara and Luchasaurus, both kind of fit in the visual storytelling. Sammy, not only as like almost like X Division size capable wrestler, but from that the opening match against Cody definitely said a lot moving forward for Sammy. Not only was Cody willing to pull him over, Cody sold well for him, and also Sammy, with his cockiness, he was able to easily not only emote that, but you can definitely see how it was telegraphed throughout the entire match. And yeah, putting him in with Jericho and having Jericho talk him up is a good bump for him. But yeah, Sean definitely did ding him back because the fact that he is in a stable with Jericho, who is currently the champ right now, and Jericho, who always likes to reinvent himself, everyone will mainly focus on him to where Sammy will fall in the background. And I do have to admit, Hunter did have at least a good zing on Sean when it came to Luchasaurus. How Luchasaurus, I mean, because when Sean brought up how Lucha has this great merge capability to reach out to a wide net for kids and everyone, that slight ding, although if you had your ding on whether you don't want AEW focus on kids, if you had changed it to where it could hurt his character, it would have been a good equalizer. But unfortunately, you didn't give much on trying to tear Luchasaurus down. So Sean does get my point, unfortunately.
Unfortunately for you, fortunately for me, though. So
I'm just saying, Luchasaurus is great. It's just that his pairing with, if there was more done to attack his pairing with Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy, there could have been more to take down Luchasaurus, and how he could be, in a way like Sammy Guevara, being held back in a 6-man group or in a 3-man group or in a stable sort of way. But didn't get to see that brought up.
Fair enough. Okay, so Sean takes a 1-0 lead as we go into the next question. The next question, the category was selected by Sean, and he chose the category of the WWE. And it seems like when you think of the words WWE, the word despicable kind of gets followed up more times than not on a regular basis now. First, they do the horrible stuff with Rey Mysterio's son, or as some people would say, Eddie Guerrero's son. Then we have Diabolical Hell in a Cell. Then we had the Raw that followed Hell in a Cell. Then we had the Draft. Then we had SmackDown that followed Hell in a Cell. So
we're gonna be here all night if you're naming stuff off.
Pretty much everything has been despicable with WWE in the last little while. But so in honor of WWE's despicable television product right now, we wanted to ask both of our players, what moment was the most despicable act done ever on WWE programming? So, because again, this was Sean's category of choice, we're going to go to Hunter now. Hunter will get first cracks at this. Hunter, what is your choice for the most despicable act that WWE has done? I hope you picked Hell in a Cell, by the way.
Sadly, no, because mine is a bit worse than Hell in a Cell, even though that was awful. My pick not only ruins the push of a top star, but it was an angle that didn't need the way it went. Not picking the 2003 feud between Booker T and Triple H, which led to the WrestleMania 19 debacle. So yeah, they ruined Booker T's push. Booker T was so over. The comedy with Goldust, everything was working. And then to see him be able to be put into that main event spot against a guy like Triple H, I was excited. And then the racist comments came. Then the grab my bags, the just things that didn't need to be in a wrestling storyline was there. That's why I'm going with this feud, because when you talk about Despicable, there's nothing more despicable than that. I'm going to concede the rest of my time.
All right, so we have the infamous H Mania 19 angle. Had a feeling that was going to be point by one of our players, and I have a feeling everybody knows the other one that's going to come up pretty soon when Sean goes ahead. So the Despicable Acting, take it away.
2 words: Katie Vick. Done.
Okay, that's all we need to say, unless you actually want to go.
I can keep going if you want me to. It's just like, look, this is easily described to everyone as the most despicable and worst storyline in WWE history. The Katie Vick storyline is 3 weeks of horrendous television and storyline development. And while the Booker T Triple H thing is a black mark on the history of wrestling, it's nowhere near the Katie Vick storyline.
Let's see how both of our players will argue Despicable Triple H feud versus Despicable Triple H feud. Take it away whenever you're ready. This ought to be interesting.
Hunter, here's the problem with the Booker T Triple H one. When you picked it, I had to go, what did they do again? Oh, wait, everyone's mad because he just didn't win the main event at WrestleMania. Look, this storyline, as bad as it is, and I'm not going to say that it isn't bad because it was racist. This type of storyline has happened many, many times before, done by Nature Boy Ric Flair, who did it in the Southern Territories against Junkyard Dog and Butch Reed. Here's the main problem, which is why it pissed so many people off. In those storylines with Ric Flair, he got his comeuppance at the end. In this one, Triple H didn't. That is the real reason why everyone's upset. And it didn't ruin the push of a top star. Booker T was still a top star throughout the WWE with King.
No, he was not. It took him 4 years to win a world championship for the first time in WWE. 4 years after that angle, because
you know what, though, you can say that about
so
every in WWE though, man. Everyone, all of them, up until Kofi, all of them had that chance. And they didn't get it. So you can't just make it be just about Booker in that sense. And the thing with Booker T's storyline, as bad as it was, they did bring in a realness to it because the stuff that Triple H was attacking him on about his history was true. Mine was stuff that they just thought was going to be entertaining, and it was a train wreck. The Katie Vick storyline dropped WWE's stock to the lowest it had ever been because of how bad that was. It made a joke of drunk driving. It had necrophilia in it, and it had sodomy in it. And it had Triple H humping a doll in a casket while in very thin walls next door, an actual wake was going on. The disrespect of Vince McMahon filming something like that, it's mind-boggling to, yes, racist comments by Triple H, which I'm sure Triple H didn't want to do, but Vince made him do it. But you know what? Here's the great thing. Booker was okay with it. Do you think Booker would have allowed that if he had not been okay with it? It was signed off by both people. So making it the worst despicable moment in WWE history is a laugh compared to the Katie Vick storyline.
See, that's the Katie Vick story started out okay. It started out as Kane being used as a murderer and using that against him. Yes, it got way awful. But the beginning of it was okay starting out because Kane was a murderer. It worked with his character. Not only did this ruin the mystique of, or not only did this ruin Booker T as a character because people were so behind him. He was still Booker T over during this time. People were enjoying what they were seeing. He was a great talent coming from WCW, and they gave him this stupid, racist angle to work with. The dance for me. You're just a dancer. Dance for me. black
did
guy.
the same thing with Kofi Kingston with New Day. They did the same thing. It was racist then.
People like you don't get to be world champion. Booker never got an opportunity in the storyline to make a comeback to Triple H, to say something to Triple H. Nothing. And then the WrestleMania match happened, and he hits a pedigree, 22 seconds, and he wins the match. That makes Booker look weak in the match and in the storyline. That really just buried Booker T for 4 years before they finally gave him a world title.
Here's the thing about yours. Here's the thing about yours. At least it had a payoff match at WrestleMania. Mine basically was 3 weeks of Raw and was quickly swept under the rug because of how bad it was and moved on to a new storyline with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Kane, you want about burying a star. Booker T was still main event level caliber going against other wrestlers. Kane
He was put in a tag team. And he was tag team, and nobody remembered after this.
What's that?
I said Booker T was put into a tag team right back in the tag division where no one remembered what happened until 3 years later. But
So
Kane
what's the argument?
was already a legend at this point. He was well known. Booker T was coming in to
Booker
WWE.
T wasn't well known. He came into WWE as the world heavyweight
They
champion.
ruined this. They ruined what could have been a great angle of Booker T giving Triple H his comeuppance at the end, winning the world title on the biggest stage of them all. They ruined it and made Booker T, this feud, all of this, a joke.
It didn't make Booker T a joke. Honestly, if anyone got made a joke out of this, it was Triple H, because dude couldn't carry a match with Scott Steiner prior to that. And Booker T, he at least had a solid match. Like I said, you're only mad, or most people were mad, just because of this storyline. Booker just didn't win at the end. Like I said, these storylines are happening. These storylines are happening.
How are you gonna have the racist go over Booker T like that, saying that
that's why, and that's the bottom line. Mine literally has necrophilia and humping a doll.
All right, so I think the funniest 5 minutes in Chokeslam wrestling debate has now ended, as we were talking about racism and sex anatomy and God darn and Triple H up the wazoo. So now we sadly have to put a closing to this fun question. I didn't realize it was going to be this entertaining, though. So we're going to start with Hunter. This your final 60 seconds will begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. The K-Vic angle started out okay, but it ended awfully. Yes. Mine, right off the bat, was awful. Triple H going in with people like, you don't get to be world champion. Dance for me, you're just an entertainer. Dance for me, black guy. Carry my bags, because that's all you're meant to do. They had an opportunity to make Booker T the ultimate babyface in the storyline, have him go over Triple H at the end in a great WrestleMania moment. And they blew it by having the racist win the storyline. That makes no sense. It's disrespectful, and overall shouldn't have happened. It should have been a happy ending, with Booker T winning over Triple H, not a pedigree 22 seconds and then a win, because that makes Booker T look weak. It took him 4 years to win a world championship. Your storyline was done and over, and it was quick. It was bad, but it was quick. Mine went on for weeks on end, and then had the racist storyline, the racist win.
Sean, whenever you're ready, your 60 seconds will begin.
You said mine started off great. It literally ended a Raw saying, "Kane, you're a murderer," and by the end of the very next episode, he was humping a doll. It didn't start off great. It literally trailed right into that. Yours. You said Booker T was never a champion of that. He walked into WWE a champion. He immediately started feuds with The Rock, Stone Cold, all these people. It didn't ruin Booker T's career. Booker T went on to do great things afterwards. If anything, this vaulted Triple H to even more of a villainous role. And yeah, this shouldn't have happened. I agree. Racist is not something you should make a joke of at all. But this is a storyline that has been done time and time and time again. It's just that at the end, the good guy usually wins, and in this one, it didn't. Why? Because Vince McMahon chose to do it that way. It didn't ruin Booker T's career. Booker T still had a fantastic Hall of Fame career. The Katie Vick storyline, like I said, always described as one of the worst storylines in WWE history. Booker T, Triple H, probably not even in top 10 that I can think of right now, but it's still a bad storyline. Mine ruined WWE stock. It had a humping doll. It had necrophilia. It made light of drunk driving. And it had a sodomized episode where they put a picture of Triple H being sodomized.
All right. That was fun.
I had no time.
By the look on Malcolm's face, I'm sure he can't wait to pick a winner in this one. So, Malcolm, take it away. What despicable act was more despicable of these despicable acts?
Although one thing I've got to say is Hunter got so passionate in that main round, he sounded like he was about to cry. So, I mean, he was so passionate about this. But yeah, I mean, this was tough. But I'm probably going to have to slightly give my point to Sean. He managed to sort of counter like Hunter's arguments about the Razor storyline and that, and by saying that it was been done time and time again. Like, well, yes, the good guy typically wins. It didn't work out, but I don't think Hunter really truly managed to sort of knock Katie Vick down a few pegs enough to convince me on why it was less worse than, which was probably a hard job to do anyway. So yeah, so Shaw gets the point on this.
All right. So, and as far as the racist thing, John Cena once accused was once a racist to Sheamus, making fun of him being Irish. So it's like even the baby faces have been racist, and the baby face won in the end of that one, although the baby face was the racist. So yeah, think about that, folks.
Think of Hornswoggle every time. Hornswoggle every time.
So now we're gonna go to Nico next. Nico, where do you side on this?
Oh, dear Lord, help me. So first I'm going to give Hunter some credit because he did have some good points to be made. Booker T was over. He was in that main event slot. And then Triple H, the Get My Bags, the Dance For Me, the People Like You Don't Get to Be Champion lines, those were all working in his favor. And then had Sean not brought the counterpoints, the 22 seconds after the pedigree followed by the clean pin, that would have been a pretty damn good argument to be made. That said, Sean just had a lot of comebacks for everything. He pointed out that, yeah, kind of racist undertones, but it's not something we're unfamiliar with in terms of wrestling. That's just a sad fact that we have to admit. Meanwhile, this was the first and so far the only angle where they've done something with necrophilia, drunk driving, sodomy, and humping a dummy, and the stock dropped afterwards, and they realized, let's not do this again. So already he had that going for him. Then he mentioned that Booker eventually recovered. And also the HHH couldn't carry a match with Scott Steiner line. That was also pretty good. So that kind of knocked down some of the prestige of the rivalry of Booker and Triple H going into it. And also just the fact that the angle with Katie Vick ended on 3 weeks' notice because it was that bad, and they was just like, let's erase this from history. So I feel like Sean gets the point in this one.
Now we're going to TNA / Impact, whichever version you wish to, whichever I guess was less despicable in your mind. So question number 3, we wanted to ask both of our players, what wrestler most TNA / Impact, what wrestler best defined what that brand represented, I guess is the better way that I should have put that. So Hunter, this was Hunter's category of choice, so Sean will get the first opening statement. Sean, who did you pick? What wrestler best represented TNA Impact?
To me, with TNA, there's 2 versions of TNA. There's the TNA that was the weekly pay-per-views, which was unique and cool and was different from everything that we saw. And then we had TNA Impact, which was your weekly shows that were trying to rival Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that. So, and that one is obviously what most people know today. Not people don't know about the weekly pay-per-views outside of the hardcore wrestling fans. But to me, when he looks at the wrestler to help define what TNA was, you can't look no further than one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and that is my Olympic hero, the 3 Eyes, Mr. Kurt Angle.
And I'm guessing Mr. Sean will concede the rest of his time.
If I stop talking, that means I'm done.
All right. Just wanted the clearance. Now we're going to go to Hunter. Who does Hunter have to counter? Who best represented TNA Impact Wrestling?
All right, for mine, I'm going with someone who was known as Mr. TNA, Mr. Impact himself, the guy who pretty much carried the company for a long time. In my opinion, one of the best wrestlers working today, the phenomenal AJ Styles. I'm conceding my time.
Great. That's a great argument there, Hunter. So the 5-minute debate period will begin when the first person begins speaking. We have AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. Take it away whenever you're ready.
Before we get too far into it, both these wrestlers are amazing.
Fantastic.
We're not knocking either one of these guys as wrestlers. They're the two best wrestlers out there. So that's not what we're going to be attacking. But when it comes to AJ, I love AJ. AJ's a fantastic wrestler. But when it came to leading the company, being the face of the company, TNA, when it was weekly pay-per-views, you're right. AJ was that person. AJ most defined the X Division, which was great because X Division is what sold. But the thing is, when it came to the full spectrum of wrestling, pro wrestling as a whole and a show, AJ wasn't that face. And TNA proved that over and over and over again by not letting him be the guy to lead the show. Who led the show? Jarrett did. And when Jarrett couldn't do it that much anymore, they put the reins in someone they knew could fit, and that was Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is the guy that helped push TNA Impact to at its best point to try to rival WWE. And it wasn't AJ. AJ is like the blue chip prospect they were hoping would get there, but ultimately never did, which is why they constantly always made him a secondary card to the likes of Kurt Angle, Sting. You can name at least 7 other people before they actually gave Angle or AJ his top spot. He's a great definement of the X Division, but in terms of TNA as a whole, it's got to be Kurt Angle.
That's where I disagree with you. You guys notice I'm kind of a low energy now. That last one took a lot out of me, but AJ did not just represent the X Division. For a while he did, but he slowly transitioned into being the face of TNA. When people think of TNA, they think of AJ Styles.
What do they think? What do they think about with AJ Styles in terms of TNA?
When people think of Kurt Angle, they think of the golden age of 2000, 2003 era SmackDown. Now, again, not knocking their abilities, not knocking anything like that, but to me, the question was define what TNA/Impact represented. That's AJ. He represented the style of change that TNA wanted for a long while there. Here's
the problem with that, though. They did that style of change with the X Division, but the regular heavyweight title and everything was still formed around what wrestling is today, and that's why Kurt Angle was the one that did that. AJ, when you think about AJ Styles, you think of Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe feud. Fantastic, but X Division. You think of Ultimate X Division. When you think of world heavyweight caliber wrestlers and the feuds and stuff like that, you think of AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. You think AJ versus Jerry. You think AJ versus Mr. Anderson in the cage. You think of Desmond Wolfe and Angle. I'm sorry, I said AJ a few times. I'm not helping your argument. Which is also the reason why Angle is a 6-time TNA champion and AJ not nearly as much, is because they see what Angle was able to do. He's fantastic on the mic. AJ wasn't that great on the mic until he went to WWE. Angle could play heel or face. He could make fun of himself or he could be serious. AJ really was only really good as a face. When he tried to be a heel, especially when he was trying to impersonate Ric Flair, it was bad, and that was another storyline that I thrown under the rug. Also, the fake impregnation woman, I can't remember her name right now, also failed. But with Angle, it was always going to work, and it was always true, which is why Angle is what defined TNA Impact.
To me, the question is, when you look at defined, you look at someone who started from the ground up. Who then morphed himself into what TNA was trying to be at the time, and now still is. It's focused on smaller, newer talent. At the time, AJ Styles was the guy. When you think of Impact, you think of AJ Styles because of, one, the matches he had were incredible. 2, he wasn't the best on the mic, but he could make a storyline work no matter what storyline he was in. Like even the
on the Ric Flair impersonation one.
fake woman or whatever. Claire Lynch, thank you, Ryan.
Claire Lynch, yeah. Thank you, Ryan, for telling us.
It was a bad storyline, but AJ made that work.
It didn't work. That's why it was looked at so
But
negative.
also, when Kurt Angle came in, though, this was when, to me, the downfall of Impact was. Because
the Samoa Joe Kurt Angle feud was the downfall.
No, not that. But after a while,
when Kurt Angle came in, that was the feud that started it.
After a while, though, you got TNA just kind of relying on WWE guys, bringing in more.
You want to know why they did that? Like you said, they used AJ to move the button.
But when you think of what TNA is represented as, you think of AJ Styles, because this is a guy who is a company through and through, work to get the company to the highest level.
Time. All right, 5 minutes is completed. I'm now going to go to the closing arguments. We're going to start with Sean. Sean, your 60 seconds will begin whenever you're ready.
This round definitely needed more time. Like you said earlier, they used AJ to try to push the style of Impact as small, diverse, unique wrestling. But the problem is it wasn't working. That's why they went to WWE guys like Christian, Sting, and ultimately Kurt Angle. Why? Because Kurt Angle sells. Kurt Angle is hands down one of the best wrestlers to ever live and will ever be. And when he went to TNA, he made everyone look good. He made Jarrett look good in his older age. He made Sting look good. Jeff Hardy look good. Mr. Anderson, who, while I liked his character in WWE, doesn't really have great matches, but he did with Angle. Angle could work with everyone. He was able to be on the mic. And like you said, yeah, AJ wasn't that great on the mic. What sells wrestling? Great mic skills. The Attitude Era wouldn't be where it was without Stone Cold and The Rock on the mic. TNA wouldn't be where it was without Kurt Angle on the mic. And AJ could not do that. Here's another big factor. TNA Hall of Fame. Who's in it? Kurt Angle, not AJ Styles. How can you have someone be the definition of TNA if they aren't even in the Hall of Fame?
Time. Right, Hunter. Your 60 seconds will begin whenever you're ready.
To me and to a lot of people, when they think of Kurt Angle, they think of WWE. That's, and again, not knocking him, but that's what they think of. When people think of TNA, they think the first name that comes to their mind is AJ Styles. Because not only could you put AJ with anybody and he'd have a great match, he put a fantastic match with Abyss when Abyss was just starting out in TNA in 6 Sides of Steel. AJ Styles is the guy the company trusted to put with the top names to make them bigger for TNA. AJ was a multiple-time heavyweight champion. He was there with the pay-per-views. He was there to about 2016. He was there for pretty much the entirety of Impact up to that point. To me, I look for a guy, and the question is, defined TNA. AJ Styles is the guy who defines TNA. He was there from the beginning, and he worked to make TNA the big show that it was.
Time. All right. That was a good argument there. Of course, we all know what's at stake here. If the judges sided with Sean, this match is over. We're going to start with Ryan on this one. Ryan, where do you side?
Okay. This one. Okay, this one's definitely difficult to decide here. Hunter, you did a good job really slowing down the arguments. You're able to bring more on points. As you mentioned how AJ is compared, even though Kurt Angle was the guy that was used to help make certain wrestlers that TNA brought in from WWE look good, ultimately down the line when people start looking back, as you mentioned, AJ is more looked on as TNA. He is seen as the face. Even in their storylines, when Kurt Angle was there, AJ was always said to be the future of the company, to where even when they started bringing in more WWE guys, AJ was still that cornerstone, that foundation where everyone looked towards to build the future. Hell, even when they did the veterans versus the young guys, when it was Kurt Angle, Sting, the Main Event Mafia, who was leading the charge against the veterans? AJ Styles. But unfortunately, that point was not brought up, so I really can't add that on. But Sean, he attacked you so much more and he brought so many more points on that. The fact when Angle was brought in as Joe's opponent, people lost their crap. I mean, that episode when he showed on with Joe, moving forward, and yes, Angle is great on the mic, and Sean said Angle does know how to make fun of himself. He's more of a built-round character compared to AJ. I guess when it comes down to it, yeah, Sean did take more shots at you. I'm not saying you couldn't recover. It's just because of limited time, there wasn't enough time for you to recover. But because of Sean's arguments, the way he was able to at least pick and choose what to bring in, he gets the point.
All right, fair enough. Let's go to Malcolm now. Malcolm, where do you stand?
Yeah, this is tough, but because there's so many ways you can look at when it comes to defining something. But ultimately, I am going to side with Sean on this because I think he did manage to get a lot more points about how when Kurt Angle came over to TNA, kind of helped get everyone talking, and how he also mentioned how AJ wasn't that great when he first started and just sort of evolved. Kurt Angle came packaged and but yeah, so Sean gets my point on this. All
right, and with that, this match, actually to my shock, is unfortunately over. It's a 3-0 knockout victory for Sean, which is actually kind of saddens me because I had a lot of fun with this one. Both guys really brought it. It was great arguments from both players. So
that next round was going to be a doozy too.
Oh my god!
I was so excited for that next round.
Sorry that I didn't bring my A game, guys.
Well, let's go to some closing arguments. Let's go to with the winner first, representing Chokeslam Wrestling Debate, doing us proud. You had your hands full here for all those questions. In all seriousness, so overall, how would you have rated how you performed tonight?
The same I rate myself in every performance so far in TMG. I don't know what a speed round is because I don't let my opponents get to a speed round. That's another knockout on my belt here. You brought a sniper. I brought a bazooka. That's how it works. Hunter, you're a great competitor. It was fun. But yeah, you brought in someone to make a statement for Chokeslam. You couldn't pick Nico. You picked the next best thing. And Nico, eventually, you and I are going to play each other. And I'm going to take that red belt you have on your waist away from you. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. And bring on the next victim.
All right. I don't know if you can take that particular belt, though, because I think that'll be called thievery, and that'll be just another despicable thing that can be added to the ranks of wrestling.
Mental,
because mental theft sounds so much better.
It does when I store in his brain.
All right, so unfortunately, we're gonna go to the unfortunate non-winner here, and I'm gonna be totally honest. Hunter, while I didn't agree with the tactics that your promotion did, I still consider you a friend, still like you, respect you, everything that you bring to the business. So what goes through your mind when a match like this doesn't play out in the manner that you were hoping for?
You know what's funny is if it seems that I'm like exhausted, it's because I am. That second round got me so fucking heated I could barely talk after it. But yeah, Sean put on a great match tonight. I thought I had some good points, but he had a lot of counter arguments that I just didn't have. Second round could have gone either way. The second question could have literally gone heads or tails. I mean, both of them had Triple H, and both of them were just like a few weeks apart from each other. So that's saying something. But yeah, this was fun. I'm not a debater. I've never really been a debater. But yeah, I had fun.
Anytime we're talking wrestling, it's going to be.
moral of the story here is Triple H and everybody. So if you ever have a question of by all means, you'll probably imaginable. So we're going here at the Imagine exist, but we call it that for some reason. So I go to Sean first. Sean, where can the good?
As you guys can see behind me, I have my own YouTube show called Sean's Movie Crusades. You can find me there on YouTube. That is Crusades with a Z in the middle, not an S, because my pro wrestling name was Sean Cruz. You can find me on Facebook at Sean Wasserkrug or Sean's Movie Crusades. You can find me on Twitter or Letterboxd at S Movie Crusades, and of course Instagram at Sean's Movie Crusades.
All right, and there's hitting. I'm sure you got tons of stuff to plug and promote on you.
Oh, I do. Combat Wrestling Trivia, Combat Wrestling Network on YouTube. We do wrestling trivia. And again, check out the Horoscope Podcast. Myself and Russell Howell do a weekly horror podcast all about your favorite scary movies of all time. So check that one out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, things like that. Thank you, guys.
All right. Good, very good. So let's go to our judges now. Let's start over to my left. Malcolm, where can the good people find you online?
You can find me all over the place. I'm on Take 3 Productions, hosting Rankum and the Bragateers. I'm on Full Metal, hoping to host Full Metal Random. You can also now find me on Full Medic TV, being part of a D&D campaign on Doug's channel. And you can find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Stardust at Melkor.
All right. Sounds great. Let's go over your shoulder now. Let's look over to Mr. Ryan Payne. Ryan, where can the good people find you?
Well, everyone can just find me all around. Just keep your eyes open. If people like Full Metal, you can go check the past couple episodes. I did a Full Metal match on the Batman Arkham series. And in another sense of trivia, I do keep myself around. I'm actually, Hunter, I am looking to debut in Combat Wrestling Trivia.
My man.
I did have a match for a Wrestling Trivia Championship, but for some reason that's on the back burner. Not on Combat Wrestling, but in another division. So hopefully when that happens, I'm either going to I'm going to show up as a champion or just someone looking to climb the mountain. And also, when it comes to wrestling, I'm saying this right now, I am putting together a podcast, and I'm trying to just gather topics to talk about. But mainly I am going to talk, and I'm going to look for people to also bring on as well, but I want to get this podcast up. It's mainly just going to be a general wrestling, just talk roundabout discussion. We could talk about anything regarding update pretty much weekly on Raw, SmackDown, AEW, or if anyone's got any good connections to watch New Japan, Impact, anything on Access TV.
What a week of wrestling, man.
Yeah, so much wrestling to talk about. I figured we need to start getting all the other wrestling networks get people aware of this stuff so we don't keep focusing so much on WWE and AEW. So.
King of Pro Wrestling this weekend coming up.
Oh, shit. Yeah, it is, ain't it?
Yep.
All right, and let's go to our final judge who was stealing my shtick the entire time. Don't think I didn't notice that, Nico. Nico, where can the good people find you? As I just feel like I'm in a Brady Bunch opening right now.
You can find me clenching this red Sonia very tightly and hoping Sean never gets to it ever. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli, or just Nico Suave with 4 random meaningless numbers at the end on Discord. Instagram, Snapchat, and LinkedIn coming soon. # give Nico a job. You can find me doing occasional behind-the-scenes stuff over at Combat Wrestling Trivia on Facebook, Combat Wrestling Network on YouTube. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. There is no letter G. I am the TMG Chokeslam Wrestling Debate Champion, and I hope to keep it that way at least until after January, which I will explain why in just a moment. Dedicated to art over on Facebook and YouTube, at D2A Channel on Twitter and Instagram. Check out our Schmodown reactions. Check out the Who Cares Anyway podcast. Check out the Star Wars Resistance recap show called Viva la Resistance. And vote for us for Best Schmodown After Show when those polls finally come out. And trivia for Thon 2, that's the big January charity drive that I do where we raise money for the Four Diamonds Pediatric Cancer Research Fund as part of Penn State's annual Thon event. We're doing matches all throughout the fan leagues, and one of them will be a title defense, whether I'm still champion or not, of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate Championship. One of the others will be a super fight here in TMG Entertainment between me and Cody Newberry, and maybe we'll add Sean to the mix if he gets more belts as well. But for now, it's just me and Cody in what I like to call the 6 degrees of debate match, where we're just going through all the mediums of debate here in TMG Entertainment.
Oh,
yeah, so
that sounds like fun.
it sounds like if you are a masochist, that sounds like a wet dream for you. You're just getting punished left and right for about an hour.
Is this the new Triple H storyline you're talking about?
Oh dear God! But yeah, once the link for the donation box is out there in January, please donate to the cause and be prepared for a week of fantastic matches from all throughout the fan league community.
Well said by everybody. And now we come to me. Hopefully no one will stare at me because, I'm very shy. And so everybody can find me on oh no, here they go. They're starting. Everybody can find me on Twitter at WWE. Nico.
WWE?
Yes, StreamYard doesn't mirror the image. You can actually stare the way that it looks on the picture. You can follow me on Twitter at WWEJTH1. And you can follow my own personal movie trivia showdown reactions at JTH. You don't have to. I'm not very popular. Trust me, I know. I see the view count on those videos. So without further ado, that's going to do it for this edition of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. On behalf of everybody here, I am JTH. Thank you for watching. And until next time, we bid you adieu.